Emotionally stressed, it's a lot more effective to align with the emotion that is said or demonstrated. This doesn't mean you agree with what someone is saying. What works is to acknowledge the emotion, both verbally and non-verbally, to align with it. So to replay our previous example, I'm mad as hell at you. So you're really upset with me, and I'm wondering if you and I could sit down for a moment and we could talk calmly about what it is that upsets you. Since I'm sure the reason you want to talk to me is to resolve this issue and to maintain our relationship. Isn't that true? Now that's going to be hard to disagree with, isn't it? And it's likely to help the other person feel that you understand them. The way to align with someone who is upset is to notice their response and comment upon it. You seem really upset. What makes the effect more complete is aligning non-verbally as well as verbally. So if the other person's voice is somewhat loud and rapid, your voice is the same. As I demonstrated, you start out aligning with the other person's voice, then you can calm down your own voice. If you have aligned well enough with the other person, they will follow you when you change your voice. If not, try again. Aligning yourself with someone is a great metaphor to help you remember what to do literally when you want to build the common ground upon which relationships develop. In summary, you can align with common interests, body orientation, or emotional state. What can you do when the situation prevents you from literally aligning with the other person? For example, if you are in someone else's office and they have you sitting directly opposite them, you can still build rapport. One way to help both of you feel more comfortable is to match the other person's posture. As you sit with a person, notice how he or she is sitting and slowly begin to adjust your body to match his or her posture. Notice the angle of this person's spine. Is it very upright or slightly leaning to one side or to the front? How about the person's head? Is it tilted to one side or very straight forward? If you suddenly sit just like the other person, you will be mimicking him or her and you will break rapport. The goal is to slowly and unobtrusively approximate the posture. This is not some new technique, is it? You have undoubtedly noticed that when things are going along really well in some interaction with a friend, that you are likely to sit or stand like one another. Sometimes you are not able to either align or match postures with someone. Certainly if you're on the phone, you can't do either of these techniques. Whether in person or on the phone, the most powerful way to establish rapport is to match the rhythm of the other person's voice or movements. To do this, simply match the rate at which the other person is speaking or moving. What you're doing when you do this is matching the cadence of the other person's thoughts. Have you ever been really excited about something and you were rolling along the tracks of your thoughts at about 90 miles an hour and the other person hadn't even gotten on the train? Did you have much in common with the person at that time? I don't think so. I learned a great lesson about the impact of matching when I was in my early 20s, before I knew anything about NLP. I grew up in New York, and even amongst New Yorkers, I can get talking and thinking pretty fast, especially when I'm excited about something. When I moved to South Carolina, I was in for culture shock, if y'all know what I mean. I knew I needed rapport, but at first had a hard time getting it. I instinctively tried several ways to be more like the people around me. It would have been disrespectful for me to mimic the accents I heard. Instead, for me to slow down and speak and move at the same rate that they did meant I was matching the rhythm of their thinking. And I built great new friendships quickly with lots of rapport, even though I was still a Yankee. One of the easiest ways to remember to build rapport is to notice some aspect of the other person's rhythm. How do they talk? Is it generally pretty fast and continuous, or slow and continuous? Some people pause more often and then speak again. Others go on and on without even seeming to pause to take a breath. Whew. As you notice a pattern, you can adjust your own speech to approximate the other's pattern. When we conduct trainings, we teach people this skill. When someone says it doesn't work, 9 times out of 10, it's because they did not actually change their own speech pattern to match the other person's. They just thought they did. It's important to take the time to really notice the subtleties of speech and practice matching them. You can also match the rhythm of movement that another person has. Like speech, a person's physical movements have a pattern, Some move a lot, others little. Some move with large and smooth gestures, some with small and abrupt ones. By subtly adjusting your movement rhythms to approximate those of the person you're interacting with, you will greatly enhance the basis for your growing relationship. In summary, if you want to establish or rebuild rapport, match alignment, match emotions, match posture, match rhythm. It works. The next step is to think about maintaining that rapport through time. This ability is what makes the difference between just instant rapport and the highest quality business relationships. The third consideration in building relationships is recognizing that each of us represents something to others in our lives. The question is, what do you want to represent? I know a mid-level manager, Bob, well trained to MBWA, or manage by walking around, who has moved to a new division of his company. He understood that there was value in being available to his direct reports and in learning directly from them what they did and how he could be useful. Part of his purpose in walking around when he first arrived in the job was to build rapport. The problem was that employees were not used to a manager walking around and found Bob's presence intimidating, even though he hadn't done anything to intimidate anyone. We can guess that the manager that preceded Bob was a source of intimidating feelings. After a few days, Bob recognized what was happening because he paid close attention to the people he supervised. The next day, as he walked around, Bob offered warm, fresh-from-the-baker donuts. As people were eating their donuts, he got a chance to talk to them about what they were doing, what their concerns were, and so on. After walking around with donuts for a few days, he noticed he was getting a very different response than he had gotten before. Bob had changed the way he was perceived. You might as well decide what you want your presence to be associated with, since it will be associated with something. I assume you want people to have a positive association to you, although the specific response you want may depend upon the context for your relationship. It's useful to test how others respond to you presently. When you walk into a room or bump into someone you know, especially when it's unexpected, notice the person's response. When he sees you, how does he respond? Does he light up with enthusiasm and delight? Does the person at least smile? Or do they frown or look stressed or concerned? This test is a good measure of what you represent to that person now. The strategy for becoming a source of good feelings for others is simple. Identify what feelings or emotional state you want to have associated to yourself. Then be a great example of that state of mind and do things, like Bob and the donuts, that encourage that state of mind in others. Sincerity is crucial. I've read lots of research lately that indicates the importance of having your nonverbal behavior consistent with your verbal behavior. Employees who were surveyed said they got confused by the mismatch between the verbal and nonverbal messages of their managers. Interestingly, they reported that when in doubt, they respond to the nonverbal portion of the message, the voice quality and the facial expressions, rather than the words. If you want to be more powerful with your messages, let your face and voice reflect your verbal message. Now's your chance to create relationships so that they'll enhance you and the lives of the people that you'll be doing very successful business with. So who is someone that either you are unsure of the relationship or you want to establish a new relationship? Pick someone specific to think about as I guide you through the steps in the technique to build better, more satisfying and rewarding relationships that will last and return a generous dividend on your investment of time and energy. Remember, to do this technique thoroughly requires your full attention. A casual listening while driving is a great start to familiarize yourself for the later, more thorough listening that you will do. Be sure you have a specific person in mind in the situation where you want an improved relationship. Try on each of the following as I describe them. Step 1. Goal. What is the goal for this relationship? What do I want the relationship to be for us both? What goal for the relationship will serve both of us now and in the future, the near future and the more distant future?